Yeah, it's the Archivist, y'all. Exclusively interviewing CHEV out the 206. One of Seattle's finest. And who is Seattle's CHEV?
Well, CHEV, my name is Chevis, and so that's just my little acronym for my name, or whatever the fuck, cut off 2 letters. I'm just out here talking shit, doing my thing. I stay talking shit. Shout out to the homies Live, Nomads, Lair, Blue Scholars, Common Market, my guy Ra. You know, we got a lot of homies who's out here doing shit, so just got to represent for the town, for the people that I have love for, who've held me up in rough times. And now I feel like I'm strong now, and so I'm ready to hold some of y'all up.
And on to the beginning of coming up in the game alongside the Nomads, Language Arts. Share what had you into hip-hop and now the artists that you are putting it down for Seattle.
When it comes to artists who really got me involved with music as a whole, I would have to say I've always been a big fan of the Dirty South movement, you know, like Scarface, 8 Ball and MJG, Devin the Dude, anything that's like Suave House or No Limit, Fiend and Mac, you know, Cash Money too, maybe not as much as some of the other heads though, but I just like a lot of South shit. I grew up, my brother always put me on like De La, EPMD, a lot of the East Coast legends and shit, but I would have to say my favorite is just like that real gutter shit that slaps, you know? I really am a fan of that. In Seattle, I'm a big fan of a lot of people. Right now, everyone knows that Macklemore's doing big things. Shout out to Mac and Ryan Lewis. You know, he's a producer on all the beats. That dude's crazy. He don't get enough respect. Also, some of my fam is the Blue Scholars. Those dudes have really given me a lot of support in my life as a whole, so I always got to show that support back to them. You know, those are my guys. Ra Sion, the MC, who is widely known from Common Market, he also had an album called Victor Shade, and he's got whatever the fuck else he's doing right now brewing up in the kitchen. That's my big homie. That's like my brother, so shout outs to that guy. La, he's a very talented MC who just dropped the album called C-Lab. He's got a few other shits on the way. I know he wants to talk about his baby that's Life of a Salesman, but that guy, that's like my brother too, you know? So he was always with me, allowing me to be in the lab with him when he was creating. You know, just trying to keep me sharp on my toes and shit. Trying to make sure like the artistry doesn't fall off. So I gotta respect that. There's a lot of producers out here who's hella talented too. Like the homie Def D, Jester, who my next album is gonna be fucking with him completely. Man, we got so many homies out here. Just much love to everyone, really. Everyone who's representing, you know.
And mixtapes. You've been on collabos from Phoenix, Hollis, Just Money, and production with Jester, Def D, Bean One, Ollie, Robert Miller, Angel Morales, Sabzi, Buddha, Jape, Sam Judah. That's a grip, bro.
Yeah, those are all the producers who are actually gonna be on my debut album, Charles. Some of them I know from the internet, some from real life, you know, people who I built with and broke bread with. Some, you know, I just met them a few times, and luckily enough, they were willing to share some of their music with me, and so I was able to create to it. I've worked with a lot more cats, but I've been on a lot of features, and I put out like a little mixtape, pseudo mixtape, a month or 2 ago called Fuck Your Collab, where I just compiled all the tracks that I've done, well, some tracks that I've done with a lot of those homies, and then I just threw them all together and just was like, you know, fuck your collab. Just as a little shout out, head nod to the homies, like, you know.
And on tour with Blue Scholars, Hieroglyphics, performing at Bumper Shoot, Rock the Bells, Block Party, opening for Detroit Slum Village, Lyrics Born, Common Market. You're really doing it for upcoming artists. And that push, we heard you're the one that's the most recognized right now, sounding dope on the tracks too.
Shit. I don't even know if I could co-sign that claim about doing the most or the most heard, you know, because this is like my first actual product that I've, you know, put my foot behind to put out and put my money behind, like the few dollars that I do have. You know, I had to save for a year just to do this shit. But
No doubt.
I do definitely appreciate all of the love that I've gotten. For someone who hasn't ever put something out, that's something that I keep going back to, because there's a lot of people who've put in a ton of work for 10 years plus. And I'm just now coming to understand how difficult that is and how they have to base their life around, like, they're going from the job to the studio to maybe a second job or raising kids. And then they got family, girls, wives, cats is taking care of their moms, you know, all that kind of shit. And so
we all been there.
Just to come to understand how much it takes to be an artist and an indie artist, where you're not signed to some fucking deal where everyone just does shit for you and you have all these managers and all this shit. Like, cats are really putting in work. So I respect the game a lot more now, understanding how hard it is. And this shit is just, it's real, man. You know, if you want to do it, you're going to have to put your ass into it, you know?
And the record, Charles, what can we expect on this incredible album? You've been owning your skills for a good long minute.
What you can expect on the album is just me. I tried my hardest just not to censor myself, all the shit. When I have conversations with myself, I talk to myself. You know, it's just the conversations I have with myself in my head when I'm dealing with all the stresses of life, when it comes to, like, you know, paying rent, or fucking dealing with my lady, or struggling with my family through hardships, you know, dealing with thoughts of suicide, because it's hard out here for motherfuckers who don't got shit, you know?
Most definitely.
And the album is named after my pops, and because he passed away a few years ago, and that's when I kind of put music to the side for a little bit, and I just didn't really have the ambition for it that I had for so many years. And then as I started thinking that there was a lot of music that was worth it for me to actually try to put out instead of just throw away like I didn't care about it, I was trying to understand how to create a name that embodied it as a whole. And even though the record, I kind of think of it as a scattershot, because it's compiled over, you know, I have tracks that are from like 2007 and 2008 on there. And so there's some old ass shit that's like, doesn't exactly feel like it's still me, but when I listen to it, and I think when other people listen to it, they're gonna see that someone really lived that shit. I didn't just sit back and try to create cool rhymes, you know? Like, I like to think of myself as someone who always shares experience that they live and that they see. And so even if it wasn't me, it was because I walked by you, and that's the shit I heard you having to deal with, and I respect that.
And how do you feel about the Seattle scene and what is missing?
I feel fucking lovely about the Seattle scene right now. I'm sort of a late addition to it in terms of a fan. I grew up in the town all my life, you know. I grew up in the South End, but I knew cats was like on the block freestyling shit, but I never knew that there was actually artists in the city who really created music that was respectable, you know. I had heard of like Unexpected Arrival like right around 2000 or some shit, but that might be the only cat I ever heard. I heard some dude named Vitamin D, little did I know, like he was really onto some shit. Other than that, you know, growing up all through the 90s, I only heard of Mix-a-Lot, and, you know, I guess I was a little bit out of the loop because Mix-a-Lot wasn't really holding it down for the town in terms of like being around, or, you know. But I think right now what we have going, we have a whole lot of fucking artists who are talented, who are all in their own vein. I'm not trying to say that whole gumbo shit, because a lot of motherfuckers is like, there's so many sounds in Seattle, it's like a gumbo melting pot. You know, you could say that, but everyone has their own lane and they're doing their own shit, and I'm glad for that, because I don't want a motherfucker that sounds just like me, and I don't want to be a motherfucker that sounds just like them, you know. I could shout out, you know, 24 names right now who nobody sounds alike, and I think that's because Seattle is such a fucking dynamic place when it comes to cultures and people. It is a majority white city, but depending on where you're from and if you're willing to share with people, you will see that there's people from all over the world, immigrant families, homeless peoples, whatever the fuck, motherfuckers struggling out here. So as long as you're willing to share words and open up your ears, you'll see there's some real shit out here, you know?
And the best tour and the largest crowd you've ever rocked?
Shit. I would have to say best tour. I've only really been a part of 2 tours.
Okay.
One was the People Power Tour with some of my Kasama fans like Prometheus Brown, who is also known as Geo from the Blue Scholars, and the homie Kiwi of Native Guns.
That's right.
First Quarter Storm was there. La was there. There was a few other homies, you know, shout out to everyone else. And the other tour I was a part of was, luckily, the Blue Scholars. They let me come along and just be the little homie on the tour back a few years ago when they did a nationwide tour with Hyro. And that shit was live. So even though the People Power tour was definitely more family oriented because we all knew each other very personally.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I really got to get out the fucking state and you know, nights of being in a van all night and just chopping it up with the fam, I would have to say that Hieroglyphics tour with the Blue Scholars, that one would definitely be my favorite. And so, you know, shout out to Dell. You know, I fucked with his music before. I was really surprised at how much these guys are just really personable people and very easily, like, relatable too, because, you know, we just chill backstage and play chess, you know. I got my ass kicked a few times by Pep and Casual, you know, so I wish I would have got them because then I would have talked a lot of shit up in their ear, but, you know, I guess it didn't happen like that. Next time I see you guys, I'm coming for that, though.
Largest crowd you've ever rocked?
Largest crowd, I would have to say, is probably when I performed with the Blue Scholars at Rock the Bells at the Gorge some years back. Because, you know, it's the Gorge. It's just obviously there's a huge fucking venue, and they've had following for years. And shout out to all the homies who ever let me rock a set with them. You know, if it wasn't for y'all, I would have half the experience I do, you know? But there was thousands of people, and it put me onto something how, as a performer, you know you have to deal with whatever the fuck happens with sound men and audio engineers and all that shit. You just got to deal with it. No matter what, you can't stop spitting, even if everything ain't right. So I will never forget that lesson, because even for the moments when shit was fucked up, I had to just keep going and doing me, you know? Like, you can't let someone else stop you from doing you.
And the best hip-hop memory you've been part of or contributed to?
The best hip-hop memory? Oh, shit. You know, honestly, there's way too many for me to choose one hip-hop memory. I work at a school around this area, and so, like, some of my favorite memories are recent memories where there will be little homies at the school who spit, who obviously have some talent, and if they wanted to further, you know, work on their craft and pursue it, people might end up really respecting what they do. And so, you know, I'm nothing of a fucking expert. I'm not some genius and shit, but I try to make sure that when it comes to, I have such a love for music, and I feel like that's something that I can give back to because of my passion for it, that I just want to make sure I show them attention in that and let them know how many different kinds of styles there are, any way I can help. Just making sure they got notebooks or put them on to places where they can get instrumentals. If they're like, they need beats, I try to tell them where locally in the city they can record for free at different youth programs, you know, like all of that shit, because it's the next generation that's going to keep it going. Those are going to be the homies that go to your shows. Those are going to be the homies that take over when you're done. So you want to make sure they're dope, or else then it just falls off. You know, you got to keep the chain going.
And you have anything to say to Canada?
Shout out to my guy Max in Toronto. Shout out to a lot of homies. All the Toronto heads, everyone in Van City. Shout out to Jills, all the Kasamas out there. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to the archivist for coming down and working with me and all the rest of the homies, trying to get us some more eyes and ears on us. I really appreciate that. For all the listeners and all the fans of my music, I'm really not that personable dude when you first try to get to meet me, but just say what's up, man. I'll fuck with you. We'll break bread. Cheers on a drink. I ain't really smoking right now, but you know, I don't mind if you blowing trees. Do your thing. Thank you for giving a fuck, you know, because I give a fuck too, and that's what it's about. As long as we all care, I feel like it's better than no one caring, you know.
And let us know more about CHEV. Where to find you, how to check out your stuff.
If you're a fan of my shit talking, you could see me on Twitter. Twitter name is CHEV, the CHEV, C-H-E-V, the C-H-E-V. I'm on Facebook, Chevy Chev. Fucking Chevy.bandcamp, CHEVY.bandcamp.com. I got some free shit on there. About to put the album out on there too, so that's another place to reach me. You could find it on iTunes. Man, just see me around. If you don't know me, if you want to get a hold of me, hit up all the homies. You can find me through their music, through the Nomads, through La, through a lot of the homies, man. Show support. Support is given.
And you got any shouts?
Man, shout out to my mom. Shout out to my brother. Shout out to all the homies who ever lifted me up when I was down. Shout out to all the motherfuckers struggling out here. Shout out to people who give them a buck when they are down. Shout out to all the kids at the school. Shout out to all the little homies at Cleveland who be listening to the shit too. Shout out to the Rainier Eagles for just whooping that ass today. They put it down on the White Ravens. I think they're going to take the crown this year. So shout out to Malik and Jamal and Gabe. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to my father, Charles Gary. May he rest in peace. You know, I'm hoping that in naming the album after him, it'll do him a little justice. Just keeping someone's name in the air longer so they're not forgotten, you know? That's about it, man.
And shout outs to Law, the Nomads, Docs, and CHEV. And this is the Archivist, and you already know the name, y'all.
Yes, the Archivist. Thanks, man.